THA Talks, for free thought and open minds.
And for freedom of speech.
Hello, I'm Paul Obitelli and welcome to another edition of THA Talks, the alternative podcast show from the UK. Our talks include news, conspiracy, spirituality, the occult, science, history, art, philosophy, religion, and much more. If you'd like to check out our full archive, just go to www.thatalks.com to listen to and to download all our free content. And if there's anyone who'd like to contact us and give some feedback, maybe you'd like to recommend a guest for the show, you can email us info@thatalks.com. And don't forget, you can subscribe to the show via our RSS feed, and you can also find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, and many other podcast directories out there. Hi, thanks for joining me again here on THA Talks. We're going to be doing things a little bit different today. We are doing an interview with Think For Yourself, who's been trending like a lot on the internet recently with some of his views on Trump and this whole kind of patriot movement. And I'm going to be handing the reins to John White, who's done an interview with him, and it just made things a little bit easier. We all love what John does. And he's get some really interesting people in on the THA community, so to speak. So I'm going to be handing the reins. I've got the interview here. I'm going to be rolling it off in about 2 seconds.
And hello, THA. Oh, Paul's done a mad one. He's put me in charge. So today I'm interviewing Think For Yourself, who is a relatively new poster on Twitter. You've been going there for since March, I think? But it's all exploded for you. Yes, because you dared to say that you changed your mind in a positive way about Donald Trump. So what happened? You know, I mean, it's been crazy, hasn't it?
The question I have been asking is what just happened. I actually phrased it like this. I was wrong about Trump. And that's all I said. And then I did this 2-minute video, and 2 minute and less than 20 seconds video, because, of course, I know nothing about social media and Twitter. I didn't even know how long a video you could put on Twitter. I had to find that out. So I did this video under that heading. I mentioned that I was wrong about Trump about 6 times in that video. And suddenly, it just went bonkers.
Well, I mean, I've had a little look at your account. From what I could make out, your number of followers has sort of exploded 20-fold in the last few days, hasn't it? I mean, it's absolutely gone crazy.
Would you like me to tell you that story and give you the backfill as to why I created an account and why I'm here?
Well, I think that's a really good start. Let's find out what is it about Donald Trump that you changed your mind about, and I'd also like to know, how did you see him before? You know, so.
Oh.
What's the story of how your view changed, or what was the thing that kicked it over so you went, oh my God, this guy is totally different to what I thought?
Okay, so I need to just clarify one really important thing, is that I never thought he was an idiot. Okay, I am of the business world. I understand when somebody's made their billions, and in the environment he's made it in, I realized that he clearly was a very astute man. Okay. I couldn't understand what I was seeing him portraying as a president. That was my issue. I'll backfill a little first, then you'll get the full enormity of this kind of this 180-degree change in thinking. So I had come off all social media and was really enjoying the freedom. Okay, and then. Guess what?
So pandemic. That's a key point. You used to be on social media, and you stopped being on social media, presumably because you just found it wasn't productive, and then you came back on because your timing with which you started to be on Twitter again obviously matches the lockdown with the pandemic, and your @, on Twitter is coronavirus 4. So was bringing forward coronavirus info part of why you started again? Sorry, just a key point
totally.
to come in on.
It It's a really good point. It's totally why I came back. Why did I really go off social medias? Because I just didn't want to put any more money in their pockets, in Mark Z's pockets, in the pockets of those people who run these platforms. I've had enough. And I'm 53. I'm a grandfather. I want to spend time with my grandsons. I just didn't need it. So I come off totally. I went back on for that very reason. I could see what was occurring. I couldn't understand why people couldn't see what was occurring around us. I mean, I was watching the numbers around the world, and I couldn't understand why people did not see that there was, whether it was a planned agenda at that time, I didn't totally get, but there was a pandemic coming. There was a massive thing happening. I could see this, and I couldn't understand why nobody could see it. And I was watching, for example, Facebook and Google, and Amazon, Apple maybe, not having their developer meetings, so not flying people from all over the world, long before lockdowns were happening. And I was lining this up thinking, what do they know that nobody sees? And it was so obvious that markets were going to crash, and then airlines stopped flying, and this whole thing was so. So when we went in towards our own lockdown, again, you could see that coming a mile off.
So you could see you could see markets reacting, getting ready before the public was even aware that the problem was going to exist. You could see the movements in the markets and the positionings of different corporations. And is that kind of part of what you saw? You thought, oh, way up, something big's coming.
The economy was in the process of shutting down. The world economy. What did anybody expect was going to happen to the market? How could they not be impacted by the entire fleet of planes slowly being put into mothballs? How could they not react to the entire entertainment industry going into... When James Bond's launch was cancelled, these are such amazingly huge telltale signs, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Every hotel on the planet has been impacted. Why does anybody think there would not be an initial market meltdown? Just extraordinary. And therefore a positive impact on things like gold and silver and various other things. But we can get into that later or another time. But yeah, I see it coming. I literally went back onto Twitter and created that handle that was, I wanted people to think for themselves. I knew that we were going to go through a massive bombardment of being told what to do.
Yes.
And therefore, whenever you're told what to do, doesn't matter whether you're in a totalitarian state or in what we're supposed to be in, a democracy, if you're told what to do, you always have to work out why.
I'm going to briefly interject here for the THA audience, you see, because I did a podcast about the coronavirus with Paul about the beginning of March. And I just want to say, in that podcast, I kind of took the virus itself as potentially serious. So I put together basically the best virus infection control advice that I could, because I have a background in healthcare. But since then, the chaos of the information and the disinformation and the misinformation and the contradictory information, I mean, I would say that it has not panned out to be anything like what I was concerned it might. And it's now much more obvious that there's a massive agenda has been played out through this whole thing, and I just wanted to put that in there for the THA audience so they know where I've moved to since I did that podcast. So I'm very much agreeing with you. Please continue.
Well, you're making a point that's going to back up my point, and there's nothing wrong with changing your mind.
We're perfectly tight to do it, aren't we?
I mean, how can you know the level of control there was going to be? But you know what? I don't really want to get into that conversation, because it's been aired so many times elsewhere about vaccines and the fact there was a dummy run for the pandemic and all the rest of it, and who's in control. I want to go down the positive route about what's going to be after what's coming, which is very exciting.
Let's bring it back to Donald Trump then.
Trump.
Because this is a big positive development for you, isn't it, that made you change your mind about him?
Well, it's massive because it's linked to the market, and that was what my major realization has been. And it's really funny because I keep being asked this last four days. I mean, life has gone crazy. I had less than 700 followers. I'm not interested in followers. I didn't do that video for followers. I now have another 10 or 11,000 on top of it. I don't even know. I don't even know how many retweets the whole thing's had. I don't even understand it. How can that possibly be true? I've heard of things going viral before. What never really interested me, but here we go. It went viral. But
I suppose it's the thing about Trump followers here is that they are people who react to things in a positive way. You know, if you say something which supports their view of a president, if you say something which is positive about a president, perhaps because there is so much negative about the president,
incredibility,
you know, that they tend to respond really well.
Yeah, there is. I mean, well, indeed. And so that's what I've had, particularly because, you know, there's that British English thing about it as well, which, you know, a lot of Americans like. And so that, you know, they're seeing it as, you know, the brethren from the special relationship country over the pond is back in our story. That's what it feels like. So let me go back to Trump. Let's just finish this off. What did I think? I saw really interesting, intelligent businessman. I didn't know him, know much about his work, etc. He wrote a couple of books with one of my absolute mentors, legends, Robert Kiyosaki, who talked about Trump. I'm going to come to that in a second. And he was, to me, you know, a kind of a character in the business world who most people in the business world vilified and didn't like before anything to do with the election. And this is a really important point. People didn't like Trump. Yes, they took negative stories about him long before him being a candidate for presidency. Caricatured certain things. I mean, nobody's liked hair. I mean, look at my hair. What's hair got to do with anything, right? No hair, too much hair, wrong. Okay, so this was very interesting. So I don't have a TV. My wife and I don't have a TV. Haven't had for about 3.5 years. But at the time of the candidacy, we still had a TV. And so therefore, you still have news pumped into your home. I was trying not to. I thought I was awake. I've been 20 years searching to the meaning of money means you're awake. Believe me, I understand how money works and that it's not real. And we've been completely and utterly enslaved by a system that's fraudulent. Let's come to that in a minute. But the point is that Trump became the candidate. However, became the candidate is another matter. He then became the president, and I bought into, really, what have America done now? I mean, I bought into, really, what have America done now in the 80s with Reagan? Yeah, I very much, I love America. I've lived and worked in America. I love that. But my head was filled with, how can you have a Hollywood actor? Yeah, how can you have, you know, a businessman who doesn't understand politics? Don't mix the two up. I'm just talking about Reagan there and Trump there. So I was watching this guy, and then, of course, the vilification from the British press, left, right, and centre, every which way. I mean, really, only Nigel Farage in the UK liked him, and we vilified him. So you get my drift.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true.
It is. Yeah, guess what? They both turned out to be right. I mean, having said that out loud is just extraordinary. So, but think about the fact he's got his Scottish golf course and how everybody hates him because he's got that wrong. I mean, these are just stories. And I bought into that. So it wasn't particularly that I disliked the man, but I just couldn't work out what he was doing, why he was there. And I saw Simon Sinek. Do you know Simon Sinek?
Yes, I think I do. Yes.
So if anybody's watching this and they want to see the most amazing TED Talk that broke the internet, Start with Why, it's called. Start with Why. It's an amazing 18 minutes. He then did another online video called about the millennials. Simon Sinek's an amazingly intelligent human being. He's not a man who stands on stage and says, you know, look at me, rah, 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 live a positive life. He is just a phenomenal thought leader. He works mainly in corporations rather than one-to-one, but his videos are incredible. He was showing, 6 months before the election, I didn't see this until 6 months after the election, he was talking about why Trump would win the election. And he was talking about it from the point of view of Americans are fed up with politicians. He clearly didn't, well, he wasn't telling the backstory of why. Whether he gets the backstory of why, whether he's a good guy or a bad guy, I don't know. But he was basically saying Trump will win this election because Americans are fed up with politicians. And what they clearly were fed up with was certain families doing things, correct? I think we now know that, right?
Bushes, Clintons, dynasties. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. All of these tribes that we just can't believe now are so interlinked, etc., when they're supposed to not be. Anyway, the point is that he did become. I saw that video 6 months after the election. That made me suddenly go, interesting. He didn't say it was a good thing or a bad thing. He just said he knew he was going to win. And then Jim Rickards is somebody I follow a lot. Jim Rickards, massive legend of money, extraordinary man, gold man, a real thinker of the world of money. He's written a book called The Road to Ruin and Aftermath, just a legend. Jim or James Rickard, American. And he was talking a year in of how he'd predicted that Trump would win, and he was telling people that that the UK would vote for Brexit, etc. These are very interesting guys. So my mind was beginning to be clicking. I was still definitely nowhere near my realization. That happened really in the last few weeks. What really changed my thinking about Donald Trump was I just began to understand what he was doing, having all the background knowledge about how he was the torchbearer until I finally saw it. Okay? But what really got me to the realization was, have you seen the film Thrive?
I haven't actually. It doesn't ring a bell with me. What's that film about? What's the theme of it?
Thrive movement is another movement of it trying to expose what's been going on the planet, the fact that there are cures for cancer, there is free energy, all those things. Okay? It's an extraordinary video of 2 hours and 12 minutes, I think. It's called the Thrive, Thrive movement. It's quite it's a really good intro for anybody who's looking at this for the very first time. Your audience are clearly not needing that intro. But my point is still a great video to go back and watch because it lines up all of the reasons that everything's controlled by very few people in a very clever way. But it finishes on a very positive note. So, whilst it takes you on this journey of, oh my gosh, the world's terrible, it actually talks about positives. Now, it's 8 years old, but the great thing is still relevant today. So the Thrive movement, and what it was doing is it was saying, follow the money. And the money always leads back to about half a dozen organizations, corporations, people on the planet, etc. Doesn't matter what industry, they're all connected. And that's been my motto for 20-something years. I don't understand money, follow the money, try and understand the money. And what I saw with Trump finally was something that made sense to me over the last few weeks of how can the market, I mean, let's face it, okay, I don't know if your audience are particularly familiar with the world of finance, but I could show you 30 charts right now of where the world economy is. None of them says the market should be going up.
I see. Right. I mean, that's, so what's happening with the American economy is bucking that completely because it's not where everyone's predicting it should be.
Can you give me a reason why Hertz would declare bankruptcy and then suddenly its share price would shoot through the ceiling?
No, I can't.
It doesn't make any sense.
No, I can't.
Okay.
It doesn't make any sense.
Can you give me a reason why unemployment would plummet in a way unlike even in the Great Depression, okay, and still the markets would shoot up?
No,
I mean, there is no reason on the even with China coming back on board after their shutdown, America beginning slightly, the UK barely coming back on board. I mean, there's no traffic on the road virtually. There's no reason markets should be going up, and yet they are. And I was of the opinion that this was being pumped for the wrong reasons, and now I totally understand it's the opposite.
Well, I mean, what you're suggesting is that there is an underlying reason that isn't understood, that isn't being presented to the public, and even if they do follow the market press, that explains why these things are happening, and this is right. To do with what Donald Trump is doing in America.
His power is now so absolute. It would be disgusting if he wasn't a humanitarian. I genuinely now understand that Donald Trump is a humanitarian, and this is not an election coming up. This is a watershed for humanity.
Wow, wonderful. I mean, now I'm going to come in just here and say that I completely agree with you, but I have reached that from a very different route. Because I have noticed, reviewing what you put on your Twitter, I mean, you connect to various well-known bodies and people, and I've noticed that you tap in a little bit to the QAnon information, and that I've been following the Q movement pretty much since it started. So I'm looking at it. The Q movement has exactly the same picture of this election, but not coming from the money perspective that you are. So I find it great when you've got two different streams of information converging like this.
Exactly. But the point is, and I understand totally why people aren't seeing this, is because what we've never learned, even though we distrust them, is we've never learned there is an alternative to our existing monetary system. Our global monetary system has been fraudulent from the moment it became a global monetary system and before. And so therefore, the entire monetary system has always been fraudulent. Everything that's gone on in it has been fraudulent. Not that we've partaken lightly or willingly into fraudulence, because the whole thing is fraudulent. So therefore, we are partaking in a fraudulent system. We didn't mean to. I mean, I can take you down the road of why gold is fraudulent, why the price is wrong, why cryptos are fraudulent, why they're wrong, why the housing market is fraudulent. I can take you down why every mortgage ever taken out was fraudulent. if you want to. But my point is, it comes back to what do everyday people understand? And everyday people understand terrible things like the human trafficking and this isn't child pornography. That word doesn't even exist. This is appalling rapes of children. It's right there, and this is appalling. Celebrities making this a funny thing on certain chat shows that people say to us, show us the proof. I mean, no, I can't show you the proof. My life is worth more to me than showing you the proof. Go and search the proof. It takes less than an hour, really, online.
We're talking about Pedogate here, aren't we? We're talking about Pedogate and Pedowood, and the way that big criminal networks have used these criminal industries as a means of enriching themselves and also as a means of control.
Right, but you just said the right word. You said the right word, enriching themselves. It's all about the money, because with the money comes the power and the control and the influence. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a desperate greed, insatiable greed for power, and therefore it's money. But here's the thing: they do not know. Well, that's not true. They did not know. They do now. Okay, they being the dark side did not know that there were powers far more powerful than them that are potentially thousands of years old and have been unfolding for centuries and have really been at a speed for the last few decades and are literally moving at like superpowered turboed light speed for the last few days. And right now, the end is nigh for them because they did not know that with these superpowers came a legacy trust with, let's say, septillions of money. Well, not money, but funds, in value of funds. Any idea what a septillion is? How many zeros a septillion is?
Oh, God. It sounds like a lot. Not sure.
Well, okay. So a million is 6, and a billion is 9, and a trillion is 12, and then what's it? Quadrillion is 16.
I mean, a septillion, what is that?
15.
Wow.
15 zeros.
15 zeros.
So a trillion. I know we're going off our tangent here, but this is really, really important for you to understand, okay? If you ask somebody how much money is on a planet, they would absolutely not likely have an idea. Well, they wouldn't. Nobody actually knows, but within a 3 zeros, they wouldn't know. Okay, I'm not belittling you, but there's no reason you should know. But do you know how much money there is on the planet?
No.
Okay.
It's another good answer.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Well, that's a great answer, because nor did I until I looked at it properly. I've been kicking around this for decades.
Oh, right? I've always given an honest answer.
The actual figure, of course, is unknown. Likewise, the actual figure, of course, is exactly unknown, obviously, because you have to do certain equations to work out exactly. But let's assume there is about 1.5 quadrillion of value on this planet in the perceived financial markets of property and gold and shares and the futures market, the derivative market. So 1.5 quadrillion, that's 15 zeros.
Yes.
There are 12 zeros, so about 230 trillion of debt. So in other words, all the money owed to anybody else or any institution on the planet is about 233 trillion if you tie it all up. It's probably nowhere near that. It's probably a lot more. But anyway, so that's only 12 zeros. Okay, so we have a massive debt problem to 12 zeros across the planet and an entire, apparently, global monetary system of 15 trillion. So a septillion is 24 zeros.
I think 24 beats 12 by quite a bit.
Right, but here's the thing. It's not double, is it? Because double 2 trillion is 4 trillion.
Oh, no, it's much bigger.
So we can't even perceive, as a human being, we couldn't perceive the difference between a billion and a trillion sat next to each other, because a trillion is so much more than a billion.
You've got to be a very competent mathematician to be able to hold that very concept in your head mentally, haven't you? I mean, that's way bigger a quantity than
How would
most
you do
people
that?
are able to conceive of.
All I'm thinking is, you just have no idea. So think about this. There is a fund on this planet which has at least septillions, probably a lot more, that is ready to be unfolded and pushed out to pay off every single debt on this planet and to control every mark on this planet for good, for the good, not for the bad, to take out every single bad on the planet. It just needed to line up. And the great news, the great positivity is it's lining up.
So let me try to encapsulate the picture that you're putting across here. I mean, we've got a money system which is corrupt and criminal. and fraudulent, and is based on illusionary debt as a method of controlling enslavement. And this system's been around for at least a couple of 100 years, would you say, roughly speaking? I mean, when it started with...
From the moment we gave up with barter and we created something called money, whatever form it was, all right, and started even using gold and silver as money,
so
then the
about
corruption
the formation
began.
of the Bank of England kind of time.
But I say one more thing, sorry, before you answer it. But however, let's use 1694 as the true starting point, because that was the year the first wholly owned corporation by shareholders of a central bank was formed. Guess which one it was? The good old Bank of England.
Oh, Bank of England, yeah. Bank of England. Because, I mean, with the conquest of the New World, the Pope rescinded the ban on usury as a way of financing all of that exploration and conquest, didn't they? So that was sort of the birth of modern money and the birth of modern debt, and being able to lend a proportion of what you actually had in reserves. So fractional reserve banking and fiat money kind of started around that time. So that's kind of a root of what we're talking about, isn't it?
What year was that? What century was that?
Oh, I would say that was late 14th century with the funding of Columbus.
Right. Okay, so as I said, money's been corrupt for a very long time. Vatican Bank, I mean, we can talk about that for sure. It's just extraordinary. However, the actual out in the public, in your face, beautiful building in the Corporation of London area of London, Central Bank, the very first one with in theory a visible purpose on the planet to create money and lend it out, etc. The Bank of England is a perfect place for us to start this journey forward and work out how we've been enslaved from this moment forward. We always were, but it's just a great watershed to use.
I think one of the great metaphors for banking is the way that most banks have got marvellous facades and crapulous behinds, haven't they? You know, they put on a huge front with their neoclassical columns and their imposing architecture, but round the back it's just a bunch of old bricks.
I once saw a piece of architecture, an Italian design, that didn't have a back.
Oh,
it had four sides. They were all fronts, and do you know what? It was an extraordinary thing. I was thinking to myself, there must be a terrible courtyard in the middle with all the crap. But it looked such a beautiful building. It had no back. But you're absolutely right. The facade, when you stand outside the Bank of England, surrounded by every single financial institution of any note has some form of head office or office in the square mile. There are so many little offices with banks in them in that area. You're surrounded by this enormity. You feel very overwhelmed if you understand it. And you have to understand one other thing. You're not stood in London, not the City of London. You're stood in the Corporation of London, which has nothing to do with the rest of London. It is a separate country with a separate police force, governed in separate rules, and it is not bounded by fences. It's bounded by very interesting gargoyles all around it. If you go and look them and search them, you suddenly disappear down a rabbit hole. Yes, and you realise that this...
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, it's for London within the London. It just happens to have the name London, so people think it's all London, but it certainly isn't.
And then there's the Vatican within Rome, within a city, and then there's the bit of Washington DC, which is now, not as powerful as it was. And we started this by talking about Trump being the great humanitarian, now having an absolute power over these three city-states. People keep asking me on Twitter, but tell me about the three city-states. Well, all you got to do is Google the three city-states run the world, and you're in. You just go down those rabbit holes and start looking. And you will not come back up for 2 weeks. And it's brilliant. It's a beautiful thing to go and start thinking about. Because, look, nothing. Tell me anything you believe in history, and I'll go, really? And we start having a conversation. Nothing's as it seems. Nothing we've been told is as it seems. Anything. Nothing.
Well, if I sort of describe how I see Donald Trump, which is I see Trump as somebody who's been on the inside all of his life. And that he came up in that system throughout his life, but he also comes from a family that had to build their way into. They had to buy into it off their own efforts, off their own hard work, because effectively his grandfather, they came over from Germany. They had to start up in America, but because they were very successful at what they did, they ended up on the top table. And if you look at Trump around the birth of this century, he was very much accepted. He was very much an insider. You know, they all loved him, by which I mean the American elite all loved him. But then they all turned against him because he saw something in what they were doing, and he set himself against it and said, no, we're not going down this route of having a tyranny by a small elite. We're going to have we're a free society, and we're going to stay that way. So I kind of see Trump like the Godfather. You know, if you think of a plot of Godfather 3, you know, this is a man who's been in that world all his life, but then he turns against it and tries to do some good. And that seems to be very much to me sort of, maybe it's not a perfect description of Donald Trump, but he is an insider who has turned against the elite and is for the people. And that's, you know, when he became the nominee for Republican president, even then, you know, the Republican Party was trying to do to him what the Democrats did to Bernie Sanders and get him off the ticket. But the people who came to support him at the Republican National Convention in 2016, there were so many supporters, they didn't dare try it. You know, so he's like a revolutionary. He's led a revolution inside the Republican Party to bring in a grassroots movement, which is called MAGA. But MAGA and the Republican Party are not the same thing, which is why you've got so many Republicans who either don't want to show any strength of support for Trump, or who actively are now working against Trump, like this group called the Lincoln Project, you know, who are trying to do everything they can to destabilise his chance for re-election, because they know that what he is about is an end to the game that they've been playing all their political lives.
Very interesting. So that, I without a shadow of doubt, you know, inside knowledge. I mean, he's clearly very knowledgeable, very interesting, rather deeper than anybody would imagine.
He's a lot smarter than people think. He's a very, very, very astute operator. He's on an incredible level, really. You know, even his way of communicating, which he often gets attacked for and mocked for, it's a very powerful way of communicating because it's non-linear. And you know, and because it sort of brings people in circles, you know, it's a very immersive, resonating kind of communication. So you know, if you're kind of rejecting Trump, you don't want to listen to him at all. But those who give him a chance and give him an opportunity get really into what he's saying, because they learn to understand it in a holistic way through his method of communication.
Well, for sure, and what better when you go into any kind of negotiation for your opposition to think you're an idiot when you're really astute?
Oh yeah, it's major advantage. I mean, it's Sun Tzu Art of War level stuff, isn't it? But I want to come back to the financial side of what you're talking about here, because we've defined, you know, effectively there's a bunch of bad guys who've been running a bad system for the last 500 years, and they've got and that system's become more and more prevalent until it's almost at the point of taking over the world. At the same time, there's another force, a positive humanitarian force, which has got its own assets, which it's kept out of their system, and which it's now aligning to the point where those assets are going to be used to take over and make things into a positive real money system again. That's what we're talking about, isn't it? And
the real money system is a really critical key point here, for sure. Real money, gold-backed, asset-backed money. So the point about the fact it's a humanitarian movement, this is a humanity movement. I said it in my original video, and I really do know that. I don't believe it, I just know it. I'm involved with a lot of humanitarians. We've got an awful lot of projects, kind of some going, some bubbling, some ready to go. And this is kind of an area that I live for, and helping others. Because, oh my gosh, seriously, what's on the other side of what we're going through? This transition might not be quick, or will be quick. This transition is going to be quick relative to the centuries, but it might not be pretty. There's going to be some tough times. There are some tough times right now, right? But it's on the other side is amazing times. But we have to look for different leadership, different ways of running all the systems we're thinking about. I mean, for example, I was just out walking with my wife before this, and we were talking about the fact that when the whole hideous system is stopped, it's faltering now, but when it's stopped, the supply of drugs will suddenly cease. That will leave an awful lot of people. We'll have to have an entire new industry of rehabilitation. So what is on the other side of this are completely reinvented reasons for living for many people. They will have completely different types of jobs. We will have no more military because part of the whole movement is peace. But that's fantastic because the military are incredibly well trained at doing so many other things that society really needs.
Like disaster relief and pandemic relief.
And buildings. I mean, we are going to go on such an extraordinary building project across the planet, but not for the wrong reasons. Right now, China has been buying Africa, right? Ports, building, putting in the new Silk Road routes, etc., etc. We will build amazing, sustainable, eco-friendly. I mean, I'm working with a guy who makes buildings out of recycled plastic bottles, and villagers can put them up in 2 days, and they are actually, they will withstand an earthquake.
It's fantastic. I mean, I've seen some about architecture, so repurposing architecture like that, using not only plastic bottles but tyres and all the other crap which gets thrown away.
Exactly.
And these materials can be used for very effective, efficient homes, energy-efficient homes.
So what's been really obvious for this plan? I mean, isn't it amazing? They sent us home to sit on our backside to be controlled, and what they did was basically wake up an entire generation. That's what's happened in this pandemic. Okay, so when people are sitting there going, what will I do in the new world? What do you want to do? What would you like to do? Design your role, because we realise now, let's take in the UK, for example, we're both from the UK, the roads have been empty of people who went to work to do fairly pointless jobs. Because guess what? The country's still running, and those essential jobs still went to work. But the point of it, so was to have different meetings all day long and take 6 months to get anything done. Their job has clearly been proven to be obsolete and ridiculous.
Yeah, well,
so what would they like?
It was a ritual, wasn't it? It was the ritual of the office.
Right. So what do they want to do? What did you grow up wanting to be? You can be it. Do it in the new world. We're going to have abundance anyway. We've got technologies that make people well. We got technologies that can desalinate vast amounts of water. We've even got technologies where you can grow food in seawater. That is out there. We've got technologies that are going to help people to change everything they want on the planet. Go and help something in Sierra Leone. I've got a project in Sierra Leone.
Clean
I want to
up
help
all the
people over there.
pollution and clean up radioactivity, and there's nothing that we can't do because we have the means. Yes, I mean, I agree with you about this. And of course, a lot of this stuff has been repressed for decades precisely because it liberates us from the system of control.
And it didn't make the powers to be any money.
Well, that's
or not enough money.
If you can't make money, it's
no use. I wrote a piece in 2003 saying when the business world wakes up that there's more money to be made out of saving humanity than killing it, it will. And that's a fact. If they'd have worked it, but they haven't got a choice now because Trump has absolute power. He has power of the 3 city-states. Please, anybody's doubting this, well, don't doubt anything ever again, because I'm telling you did not sit down at Christmas dinner 2019 and start planning for what would happen in the next 6 months, and 4 of those months you'd be sat on your backside watching TV paid by a government.
No, nobody thought that was going to happen.
Right, so therefore anything can happen on this planet. Don't question what can happen, that's my point. Anything can happen. In the next 6 months, this world will be completely different. This is my 54th birthday. In my 55th year, the world will look completely different to how it did in my 54th year. And when you said about humanitarian having the funds, these funds so much dwarf the global monetary system, are out of the global monetary system. They're just out there. Nobody knows about. Very few people have known about till now. All right, they're out there. They didn't just arrive in the last decade. So this has been centuries, thousands of years in the coming. It's just escalated and escalated. There have been some stops. JFK was a starter, and then it stopped. There were other things in between him and 9/11. 9/11 was a big moment for it being stopped. The momentum since 9/11 to Trump, and then through this 4 years to now, is a classic quote for you. Okay, don't even ask me who it was. It says where the quote goes: "There are decades when nothing happens, and months where decades happen."
That's a great quote. I will have to find out who said that. That is a great quote.
I know exactly who said it. I'm going to say it later, but it will impair what people believe of that quote if they know who said it. I don't care who says stuff. Words don't belong to anybody. You just line them up.
I quite agree. Wisdom is eternal. You know, I mean, that's part of the point of being wise, is to realise that. You know, and you know, I mean, humanitarian ideas belong to all of humanity.
Right. So the quote is: decades. No, there are decades when nothing happens, and there are months when
decades happen.
Take my life since Saturday. There's been a decade happening since Saturday, because you know this has gone nuts. And you're thanking me for coming on your show. I'm like, thank you for taking the time to get in touch with me and want to hear what I have to say.
Well, there's another thing that we could talk about here is that, you know, yes, we're seeing. I mean, some people call it the Great Awakening. There's many different names for it, and it's been predicted for quite some time. And different people have been working towards it in different kind of spheres of understanding. You know, but it's all been coming towards a global happening,
right?
Where, as you say, everything is going to change. You know, we must be approaching that time because of the convergence of everything and everything pointing to everything. But at the same time, there are forces who don't want this to happen and are trying to stop it happening. And part of what we see with that is the repression of people who are trying to spread positive messages, isn't it? Like where we first initially talked on Twitter, because you realised that your Twitter wasn't being seen like it should be, and then I pointed out that you were being restricted.
I did a 2-minute video. It got a load of likes and retweets, and then I was submerged in the shadow banning. What on earth did I say? I said I thought Trump was wrong. That was all I said. I mean, what? I mean, okay. Let's just for a second think about that.
That's enough. That's
right.
More than enough to put the algorithm to put a target on your head. And of course, this has been happening to thousands, millions of people, hasn't it? You know, I mean, this is. Everybody listening to THA knows about the goddamn shadow banning. You know, I mean, we've lost more accounts than people have had hot dinners. You know, I mean, it's carnage out there.
Which is just, to me, I'm a novice. I'm an absolute novice, and it just amazed me that could have such impact. But anyway, let's get back to what you were saying. In that, I know where you wanted to go. You were going to ask me the question: why do I think people should listen to me?
Yeah, we haven't actually done that question, because I think you've been answering it really well.
And you know what? Here's the thing: is that I don't think anybody should do anything. I think people should do whatever it is they want, and "should" is a very powerful word. You should. You must. We're being told. All right. This is what I think I have to offer. I have an ability to see a fairly complex situation and do my very best to melt it down to layman's terms and send it out into the world in a way that is passionate, positive, and I hope understandable. So, let's say, for example, a corporate bond. All right. 1 in 100 people listening to this could probably explain to you what a corporate bond is. All right. I could show you very simply in about 3 minutes what a corporate bond is, how obscene it is, and why the Fed have been buying them. And therefore, the fact they've been buying them since this meltdown made me realise again why Trump was in control. So that's what I do. So I don't think anybody should listen to me. I put this out. I thought I had 700 people or so followers on Twitter. So I put this out thinking about 6 people would see it.
Yeah, I follow you.
That was all I was doing. And what was interesting is I never really saw many people go to camera on Twitter. So I just thought I'd go to camera for 2 minutes. And that's what I did. Because I kind of wanted to do this revelation. This kind of utopia thing, I got it. I was wrong about...
It's your marvellous taste in wallpaper, you see. I mean, it's just so sublimely chosen, you know. It's just... It just draws people in, you know.
Somebody, a very beautiful woman on Twitter this morning connected me saying, I loved what your video was. To be honest, when I saw the wallpaper, I wanted to follow you. Okay,
yeah.
And I'm like, look, I'm a man who's in touch with his feminine side. That's good. But you know what? The wallpaper, the roses, the life that's from that. I've been followed by butterflies at the moment. Literally followed by them. One of my videos on I was doing a thank you video or something. Oh no, I was doing what's the world look like video on Twitter. And at the end of it, after the two minutes, butterfly comes in, splits past me, comes back, splits past me. I am surrounded by butterflies at the moment, and that is a very powerful sign.
It is. I'm talking about butterflies. I also saw on one of your tweets that you mentioned that the butterfly is part of a symbolism for this global reset that you talk about. Is that, have I got that right? Is that, is that part of the symbolism which is attached to this?
Here's the thing: is that look, we're all first day students if we're intelligent. We should always be thinking about what we can learn from others, not what gift we've got for others, right? Okay, so I went into Twitter thinking I need to be following more people than follow me, right? I can't do that now because I've got a follow list down. But I always thought I should know what people are saying to me rather than me telling them. I want to learn from others. So I always think that if you're the expert in the room, you need to move to another room. Yes? Okay? So I will tell you quite patently now, somebody else on Twitter told me about the power of the butterfly and that it was a symbol of this entire chrysalis movement and coming out and change. So that was somebody else entirely. I cannot steal that from them.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Well, I mean, we've had a really good run around here. We've got around 10 minutes left of our time. What's the most crucial thing that you want to communicate to round the video up, to round the interview?
This would be it. Okay. It doesn't matter whether you have £50 or you have £50,000 or dollars or yen or whatever it might be. Do your very best to go and get your hands on some real physical precious metals, gold or silver. You can get more silver for your pound than your dollar right now, and there might be a good reason for that, but just go and get it. Because here's the thing.
We're talking about physical assets here, not certificated gold or silver.
Not
but
buy paper, gold or silver. Do not go near a future, an ETF, a contract. You want to go online, whichever country you live in, go online and say, I want to buy physical gold. Okay, there are some very obvious sites in America I could lead you to, or the UK, but you just go and start looking, and then look for all of the testimonials about whether they delivered or not. Okay, you want physical, you want it delivered to your home, unless you're doing more than $10,000 or pounds. You want it delivered to your home. You want it quick, and you want. And the reason for this is not investment advice. I'm not an investment advisor. I hate investment advisors because most of them know nothing about squat. Okay, and hate is a strong word, but I genuinely do. So this is not investment advice. This is not professional financial planning advice. This is simply good sense. Here's the reason it's good sense. For 5,000 years, people have been doing this, and for some reason, the powers that be have educated this out of us since the 1970s. Ask yourself why.
Independent wealth is outside of control, isn't it?
You've nailed it. So as soon as you have 1 gram of gold, you are out of the system with that tiny bit of gold. Nobody can have that back. And if people start talking about confiscation, no chance. Trump will not, categorically would not, he's got absolute power. That won't happen. If you can get your hands on as much gold and silver as you can, and this is why. This is not a maybe. This is an absolute guaranteed. There will be a currency reset. It is happening. And there will be a form of attaching whatever currency we move to, whether it's called the dollar, the Trump-dollar, whatever it might be, whether it's a digital currency or whether it's a real hard paper currency still, it will be attached to an asset. That asset will be gold and or silver, and therefore the gold and or silver that you have will, almost without a shadow of a doubt, escalate in value.
Do you think this is going to apply to any other precious metals?
All right, so here's a really interesting thought. I see this a lot. There can be no harm in owning some copper, some platinum, some palladium, all right? But the argument goes there won't be enough gold and silver to attach it. There is. They are the granddaddy and the grandson or daughter of all currency, gold and silver. The others are great. They have a value, but they're much more of a commodity as well. Silver's still a commodity. They're all commodities, but gold is simply money. Gold is money. There is no other form of true money on the planet other than gold. It is the one that ticks all of the boxes. Go and watch Mike Maloney's YouTube video. Mike Maloney, right? The Hidden Secrets of Money, and you will see in, I think, 12 episodes, about 10 minutes, exactly what I'm talking about. Gold makes sense. You have been brainwashed into not owning it.
Well, that's a very powerful statement, and I believe that you're very likely right in what you say. You know, I mean, it's business, isn't it? Because we've seen since the Second World War with the social engineering which has gone on. It's all about weakening the family unit, making people isolated, and isolated people become more vulnerable. You know, I mean, a single mother is more vulnerable to pressure from the state than a family. For example, you know, I mean, that's and anybody who thinks that's accidental is completely kidding themselves about that.
And you make a great point, my friend. How have they communicated that message into every home from the 50s, since the 50s?
Well, most through the television.
Thank you. So, you remember a program called Friends? Who could forget it? I can't watch it anymore for obvious reasons because I now know, but I can't watch it. But if you remember Joey's character, the idiot, well, not the idiot, but, you know, always a bit of a buffoon, right? The most philosophical thing Joey ever said in any show, and it was one of those clues that was left for all to seek, and that was he was the celebrity. He was on the daytime soap opera, and yet Ross was at a conference where he was the celebrity. And these women are coming up to Ross, the paleontologist, to say, "You're a star," and Joey was tapping him on the shoulder. "Yeah, I'm Joey. I'm on daytime TV." And they look at him and go, she says, this woman looks at me, she says, "I don't have a TV." And Joey doesn't know what to do with this comment. And he's like, and then he says, "What do you point your furniture at?"
Oh dear! I mean, that's marvellous.
That's how simple we've made it to be controlled. We pointed our damn furniture at the very box that was sending us these messages.
Well, it's literally the shadows of the fire on the wall of Plato's cave, isn't it?
Right.
You know, I mean, that's literally what it is.
And programs, the word program come in off channels, the word channel, controlled by the powers that be, with a message that we're supposed to see, with adverts we're supposed to go and spend that money on. I mean, it defies belief.
Even the word media roots to the Greek word medes, meaning sorcerers who create illusions.
Thank you. I've learned something. Beautiful.
So, wow.
The word mead is for sorcerer at creating illusions.
So, well, this is the thing with trying to understand the world and get into it. I mean, there is no right and wrong way to approach understanding the world, but the world is so big that we will never completely understand it. There's always something more to learn. You know, of course, is why ignorance is the root of all knowledge. Is to say I don't know. You know, as you know, I've said to you a few times on this interview, but I think this has been really a fantastic talk. I'm really happy that you had the time to speak with us, and I want to make sure that people know where to find you. So you'll think for yourself at coronavirus4 on Twitter. Now, at the moment, do you have any other way that you want to be found? Is that your main focus is the Twitter account?
I don't know.
I don't know, he says, right.
Plan, did I?
No. So, I mean, but you don't have a blog or anything else, or a YouTube channel.
I've done YouTube stuff in the past. I got into a lot of trouble with that. A lot of trouble when I started telling people about how corrupt the British government was and how the money system was. A lot of trouble.
Oh, no, I like that.
It wasn't worth the hassle. And it's so simple.
I'm so shadow banned by Google /YouTube. But if I make a comment on a THA video, because we do put these on YouTube, they don't get seen very much because we're totally restricted there. But even if I make a comment, it doesn't get seen. But the only way I can get seen is by replying to other people's comments. Then I show up. But I mean, it's absolutely ludicrous. So all of these platforms aren't the friend of people who are seeking truth and real change. But if you're looking for illusion and fake change, they're all over it.
Right. So in answer to your question, look, did you find me on Twitter? No problem.
I did. It worked out that way.
Then it's working. And the way I see the world is, if somebody's meant to get in touch with me, we'll find a way. We know we will. That's how it works.
But it's also the understanding that none of us are the whole thing. I mean, if you or I stopped saying anything today, it wouldn't stop anything, would it?
I mean, seriously, I wasn't missed before Saturday. I'm not going to be missed since, am I?
Yeah. I'm completely with you. We're just people doing our best.
The way I see it very simply is I am simply having a human experience right now, and I don't know where I go next or what happens next, but I am empowered by certain things, and I genuinely do not mind saying out loud on this show, I am empowered by God in my own way. I'm empowered by a universe that seems to be lining up for me at the moment. I am empowered by other people's energy, and I love that this has happened to me, and I appreciate it, but it will not stop me being the person I am, and I am completely humble. Right, what's been very obvious to me, I never yearn celebrity. I've got a lot to say, and I know that, and I always have in my life. I never yearn celebrity, and now I'm totally and utterly delighted that I wasn't, because I don't trust, I never really was that fussed about celebrity. I'm never going to trust another one again.
Yeah.
How could you? How can you? Where do you know where they are? Do you know what, though? I want to put a shout out, and you could put me right on this. I've seen all the lists. Oh, I've got one other thing to say. I know we're coming to an end. I've got one other thing. Think about this, okay? I've seen all the lists of people who've apparently in Gitmo or been off and all that stuff. I've seen them, okay? Why are there no bankers on there? Why are there none of the true evil bankers who created 2008, made 2008 happen, perpetuated 2008, and then started to do it all over again since then? Their time will come. There will be a separate list. I'm not going to mention anybody because I don't want to be off myself. Some of them are still CEOs on Wall Street.
Yes.
Why are they not on that list? They are some of the most heinous lieutenants of the system you can't even believe. Right?
One of the things which is interesting is tracking resignations.
Oh, how many resignations happened before Christmas and since and before the pandemic? McDonald's, I mean, it just goes on and on.
Disney, I mean, it's a vast picture. It's a vast picture, and there is definite evidence that things are getting sorted out on the QT underneath the surface. But when it does break the surface, it's going to absolutely blow the world's mind. I completely agree with you. I think a lot of THA viewers are going to agree with you, and I also think that your story is just a great little example in itself of how all of us can find ways to do something, to be part of it. I mean, it's not about being a superstar. It's just about being authentic and genuine to what moves us within, following our guidance from spirit.
Truly, that. So what it means is that if you have something to say or do or whatever, do it, say it, etc., and you do not know what's on the other side of that comment. As long as it's said with love and with the right reasons for the planet, something will come back. And I've had so many extraordinary messages that I've managed to read. I want to read every single one. And I've had some amazing contacts, and you are one of them, and I massively appreciate it. And I just want to say one thing. Ricky Gervais and Mel Gibson. Okay, I have two things. Ricky Gervais and Mel Gibson. I love those guys, and I didn't know why. I didn't know why, I now know why. I so want Woody Harrelson to be on that list. I don't know if he is or not.
It's an interesting question. He's got the right energy, but is he really there? I agree with you. It's unclear.
I want him to be. I still want to watch some films, for Christ's sake.
That's another thing. We're not going to be want to watch a lot of them. You're so right.
My wife's banned us. We're off Amazon and Netflix. They've gone.
Good.
They've gone out of our life.
Good. I don't believe in them. I'm a DVD man. If it's worth having a physical copy. And how like real wealth that is. If it's worth having,
you know what?
It's worth having a coin in your hand.
You've just educated me. Honestly, how stupid could I be? I'm 54 and I've forgotten we could have a DVD player. You've just... I'm sitting here going, I'm left with YouTube. They're just as bad as anybody else. Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
Physical copies are wealth. Oh, there we go.
Right, but okay, I know we're supposed to stop, but I've got to say one more thing. People are going, what will I do without Hollywood? What will I do? Do you honestly think below Hollywood there's not an extraordinary amount of amazing films made that never get shown? Amazing independent filmers who haven't had to perform sexual gratification on somebody else to get where they want to get. I mean, seriously, wake up. There are so many talented people on this planet. Everything can be replaced by
world cinema. I'm a big world cinema fan. Do I speak this language? No, but I speak subtitle. And there's so much to learn. Right, well, we are at an end. I think think for yourself. I thank you so much for having the time to speak with us. It's been a great fun interview, and who knows, we may do this again.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. I'm honestly, I'm humbled. I am humbled every step of this way. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. So to finish up, everybody, find Think For Yourself at Coronavirus4 on Twitter, and you too can engage with this wonderful man, and we'll all learn things together. So thank you very much. Goodbye. Love it. Thank you. That was great.
That was great fun.
That was great. Yeah. And we came in just on the hour, so that'll make Paul happy.
Oh, good.
Doesn't it go quick?
Yeah, that's it.
Paul will get this together later on because he's a working man. So it'll either be up today or tomorrow, and I'll drop you the link back as soon as it's ready.
What does working man mean?
It means it means he goes building and things. So.
Oh, okay. Right, well, thank you for this. I've had some very, very interesting DMs from one or two very interesting characters. It's been a very humbling, enlightening experience. This, and do you know what? I'm being serious. She just gave me back DVD players. Thank you so much.
Oh, welcome. You're welcome. All right. Well, goodbye for now.
Let's keep in touch.